before it occurs. Then At-Tahawi says, فَقَدَّرَ ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرًا مُحْكَمًا مُبْرَمًا. He said, and then Allah has knowledge of everything, then He made taqdeer of all of that in a very precise and exact way. And this means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His knowledge and the things which follow on from that knowledge, that it isn't just mass confusion. There isn't just confusion taking place. Allah says, وَخَلَقَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ فَقَدَّرَهُ تَقْدِيرًا. Allah created every single thing, and then He فَقَدَّرَهُ تَقْدِيرًا. Then He basically gave everything its due determination and its estimation. This means that the matters are not just simply mass confusion. I like these kuffar, they say, and they have these theories, all these batil theories. And one of these theories is they call it the chaos theory. The chaos theory. And what they say is, they say that, for example, that a butterfly flapping its wings somewhere in Tokyo, Japan, for example, is something that actually is connected to a hurricane developing right on the other side of the world, on the east coast of America somewhere. Right? So they call this chaos theory. Chaos. In other words, what they're trying to say is that although we see everything as being chaotic, everything appears to be a mess, because that's what they believe. Everything is just random and, a mess and, chaos everywhere. There's no order. That's actually what they mean. Actually, that's what they're really trying to say. The chaos theory. And obviously they are discussing this from the aspect of that there is no creator. There is no creator. So if there is no creator, how can we make sense and meaning of everything that's taking place? And so they come up with this idea called the chaos theory. And the chaos theory is basically trying to make sense of everything that's taking place, and how, for example, the drop of a pen in one part of the world could be tied, for example, to what happens to another person on the other side of the world. Right? They're trying to tie it all in, right? And obviously, to them, it's in the context of there is no creator who has determined everything, who has decreed everything, who is in control of everything. So they're trying to bring this chaos theory to make sense, right? So, because they believe everything is in chaos, because there is no creator. So the point being here is that when we say in the ayah, وَخَلَقَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ فَقَدَّرَهُ تَقْدِيرًا, Allah created every single thing and gave it its due proportion and estimation and determination. This tells us, as the Shaykh says, that the affairs are not chaos. There is no chaos in Allah's creation. It's not that there aren't any rules which are taking place in Allah's creation. There are rules which are in Allah's creation. Some of those rules Allah has informed us of. To give you some examples very quickly, to show that there isn't chaos. We are told, and we are taught in the Sunnah, for example, in many statements of the Messenger ﷺ, that when a group of people do such and such a thing, then it is a rule that such and such a thing follows. Like, for example, if people start committing shameful deeds out in the open, lustful, shameful deeds out in the open, it is a rule in Allah's creation that diseases appear amongst them. This is a hadith, an authentic hadith of the Messenger ﷺ. I'm just summarizing the hadith because we don't want to divert too far away. Likewise, if people withhold the zakah that they have to give from their wealth, Allah will withhold the rain from the sky. These two things are connected. Likewise, if the people cheat in weights and measures, we start cheating each other in, you asked me for 5 pounds of potatoes and I gave you 3 pounds of potatoes, and I put some soil in to make up the rest of the 2 pounds. Okay, I started putting water in the milk, or we started diluting the petrol when we, this is cheating in the weights and measures. So when people cheat in the weights and measures between themselves, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sends upon them famine and shortage of food. and likewise the tyranny, oppression of the ruler. So these are rules now which we are told of in the Sharia. The Sharia has told us these rules. So now, for example, when we see this ruler is oppressing his people in Egypt, and there's chaos everywhere, there's no jobs, people stealing, people complaining, people marching on the streets, and then we see these diseases appearing in this country, everyone's dying of this disease and that disease, there's AIDS and this and whatever else, and there's mass chaos, and so we see all these things taking place. It seems to be chaos, but there isn't chaos. Everything is by the qada and the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are rules in the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that explain what is taking place. Even though to us we might see mass chaos and confusion. There are earthquakes, death, illness, disease, poverty, fighting. We see all these things. It appears to be mass chaos. This is just the dhahir. That's the apparent things that the kuffar see. As Allah says in the Quran, يَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. That they only see the apparent things, the outward things in life. So here, there's no confusion, there's no chaos in Allah's creation. Everything, right down to the tiniest minute particle, everything is arranged. Everything is in its place. Everything is decreed. So, the Shaykh says, every single thing is murattaba, is arranged, wa mundabita. And, it's precise, biqada'i Allahi wa qadarihi. That everything is arranged in its exact space and place, all by the qada of Allah and His qadar and His kitabah, and by the writing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free and absolved of chaos, al-fawda, wal-abath. And abath meaning just, like a pastime, playing around. No, because this is another thing that some of these kuffar, who are very dishonest when they argue, and they say, look, there's so much confusion and chaos in the creation. How can there be a creator? We say there's chaos in the universe, there's explosions everywhere, in every place, and there's chaos upon this earth. We see all this chaos, this mess and everything. This is one of the things that they use, and they say this is from their dishonesty. First of all, they're being very dishonest, and it's dishonesty in argument as well, because if you believe to begin with that there's no creator, then this really shouldn't be an issue for you. Why is it being an issue for you then in that case? Why are you complaining about death and killing and murder and whatever? What's that got to do with anything then? If deeply you believe, as a matter of belief and knowledge, there's no creator, then why are you psychologically disturbed about illness, injustice, poverty? It doesn't follow. So it shows that you yourself, by your psychological state and condition, are declaring your beliefs as false. Because if you did believe that there is no creator, there's just matter, then why are you so psychologically disturbed? So you are a witness against yourself, right? And it proves that deep down in your psyche, the belief in Allah is ingrained. The belief in Allah is actually ingrained. That's why you are behaving the way you are behaving right now. You're trying to find a fault. Oh, there's so much evil taking place. There's so much. How can there be a God? How can there be a creator? You've just exposed yourself. Because if you truly believe there wasn't a creator, right, then psychologically it doesn't make sense for you to use this argument. This actually shows that you are insane and you are mad. You are mad because you are presuming the existence of something which, according to your belief, doesn't actually exist. Meaning, this poverty and all this killing and murder and illness and disease and all this chaos that you're complaining about, right? Psychologically, you're trying to give like a moral judgment upon this thing. Right? But on the other hand, your belief is that there's just matter. There's nothing exists except matter. Right? Just matter, this material. And time passes by. Okay, and there's no creator, there's no such thing as any creator. So why has this become an issue for you then? Why has this actually now become an issue for you? It's a psychological issue for you now. It's only a psychological issue for you because actually deeply in your soul knows that there is a creator. And what you're arguing with, what's really taking place, is you're just having this conflict in your mind. You're arguing and you're trying to make sense of why is there evil, why is there harm, why is there death and killing and murder and illness and disease and poverty and everything. You just can't fathom it in your mind. You can't reconcile it in your mind. Right? So the point that we were saying was that these people, the argument that they use that so much chaos and whatever else, and there can't be any creator. This is just a stupid argument, and it's just really their souls witnessing against themselves that the psychology they're in actually proves that there is a creator. Otherwise, they wouldn't be really using this argument. What your real argument is, basically, I find it unjust that Allah, allows poverty, and that's what you're really saying. Your soul has already admitted that there is a creator. Otherwise, you wouldn't be using this psychological argument or this moral argument. So you've already assumed the existence of a creator. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to say, why is there poverty and why is there can't be a creator. Right? You wouldn't be making an argument in the first place. So anyway, the issue here is that there is no chaos, there is no confusion in Allah's creation. Everything there is al-qadar and al-qada, and there is al-kitaba. Everything runs from those things. It runs upon al-qadar. It runs upon Allah's qada. It runs upon the kitaba, the writing which is in the Lawh al-Mahfuz. Everything runs upon that. No one can oppose and deny that. Allah says, وَاللَّهُ يَحْكُمُ وَلَا مُؤَقِّبَ لِحُكْمِهِ. Allah says, Allah is the one who judges, and there is no one to follow up His judgment. No one can follow up His judgment. Surah Al-Ra'd, Surah 13, verse 41. So after this, At-Tahawi says, لَيْسَ فِيهِ نَاقِدٌ وَلَا مُؤَقِّبٌ وَلَا مُزِيلٌ وَلَا مُغَيِّرٌ وَلَا نَاقِصٌ وَلَا زَائِدٌ مِنْ خَلْقِهِ فِي سَمَاوَاتِهِ وَأَرْضِهِ. Now, here At-Tahawi has denied 6 things. He says, there is, meaning as it relates to Allah's qadar, there is no one who is a naqid. Naqid, meaning someone who can nullify it, invalidate it. To invalidate al-qadr, to nullify it. Wala mu'aqqibun. Mu'aqqibun meaning someone who comes along and basically, he comes along and he follows it up. He comes along and he tries to follow it up and try to, do something with respect to it. Wala mu'aqqibun. There's no one who's watching over Allah. There's no one who is coming to follow something up over Allah's decree. No. Wala mu'aqqibun. Wala muzilun. Nor is there anyone, the third one, anyone who can end or put an end to seize the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nor is the one who is mughayyirun. Nor is the one who can come and change the qadr of Allah, to make any change therein, to change what is written. Nor is there anyone who is naqisun. There's someone who can come and make to diminish or to decrease from the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wala za'idun. Nor one who can add something to the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there is no one in His creation, in His heavens, in His heavens, in His earth, who can come and do any of these things. All of that is denied, and that's why we see in the ayah that we mentioned, وَاللَّهُ يَحْكُمُ وَلَا مُؤَقِّبَ لِحُكْمِهِ. Allah is the one who judges. There is no one to come and follow up His judgment. So when a Muslim believes in all of these things that we've mentioned, then it is something that relieves him. It relieves him from all of the doubts, the shukuk, the doubts, and the awham, those thoughts that he has in his mind, which are just wahm, which are just like conjecture and things like that. And this, we see, is the difference between someone who acts upon his fitrah, because his fitrah tells him that there is a creator and a master and an owner and a maker who is in charge of all of the affairs. So he is relieved from shukuk and awham, from doubts and from wahm, conjectures and despair and so on and so forth, which is a Muslim, a believer. So compare between that and between the kuffar, the non-Muslims, like those atheists we were speaking of before. And we see the difference between them. That when you look at these people and you look at their nations and their countries and you look at the misery that they live in, right? When we go beyond the surface, on the surface we see, what do we see? We see wealth and we see possessions and we see knowledge and we see skill and we see technology. We see all these things on the surface. When you dig beneath the surface, when you dig beneath the surface, when you start looking at the realities of the lives of these people, and then this is when you start coming and you're seeing the shukuk and the awham and the jaza'. We start seeing the doubts, right? So these people have doubts from a knowledge point of view. Even in the sciences, they don't know, how did the universe come to be? They don't have any certainty that there isn't a creator. They're just conjecturing. It's doubt. They don't have any sure knowledge, as Allah says about them. And likewise about the man, the origin of man. They don't have any sure knowledge. It's all conjecture. They know it's conjecture. They know it's just theories. They know that. They have shukuk and awham. And likewise, when you look at the actual lives of these people and you look at the suicide rates in these countries, you see these so-called advanced countries, like in some of the countries like in the Netherlands and Sweden, those areas, they have and other parts of the non-Muslim countries, you see that compared to the Muslim countries, they have much higher suicide rates. People killing themselves because they're sick of life and they despair and they don't believe in what is obvious, that there is a creator who is in charge of all of the affairs. Right, so they are full of shukuk and awham and al-jaza', despair, and all these things, and so they fall into these types of affairs. So when a Muslim believes in everything that we've mentioned, it relieves him from all of the shukuk and the awham and all those things that we were speaking of before. And at the same time, though, it doesn't mean that he relies only upon al-qada wal-qadar wal-kitab. Right, so yes, we believe in al-qadar and al-qada and al-kitab, but does that mean that we rely upon it? We discussed this in the previous lesson. Does that mean now that a person can come along and say, well, it's written in the book that if I'm righteous, I'll be righteous. Right? If it's going to happen, it'll happen. No. Now that he's a person relying upon the book. So in that case, I'm not going to do anything. If it's written, then maybe I'll act and do things. This is what we call relying upon the book and relying upon al-qadar. And this is batil, this is false. This opposes reason, opposes sound reason, because it's like saying, if a person says, well, if Allah has written I'm going to not be thirsty, no point in me drinking water, because if Allah wills I'm going to be not thirsty, it'll happen anyway, so I'm not going to drink water. Right? This is the same thing. Or if someone says, well, if Allah wills I'm going to have children, I'll have children anyway, so there's no point in me getting married. What's the point in getting married? If Allah wills that I will have children, then they'll come. So I'll just leave it to the qada of Allah and I won't get married. As you know, this person has lost his mind. So in the same way, when it comes to actions, if Allah wills I'm going to go to paradise, it's going to happen anyway. So I'm not going to. What's the point acting? What's the point acting? Right? These two people are the same. The one who says, for example, if Allah wills for me not to be hungry and to be full and satisfied, well, I'll be full and satisfied. What's the point of eating this food? I'm not going to eat this food. I'll just leave it. It'll happen anyway. That person, that mad, deranged person here, is the same as the one who says, if Allah wills that I'm going to go to paradise, well, I'm going to paradise anyway. What's the point acting? No need to pray, fast, fear Allah, keep away from sins, disobedience. It's going to happen anyway. Right? So, when we say, well, when we believe in all of these things that we mentioned, we believe in Al-Qadr and Al-Qada and the Kitab. We believe in all these things. But does that mean now that we rely upon those things? And the answer is no. Rather, we have been ordered to act. Because action is from the asbab. Asbab. We keep using this word all the time, again and again and again. Action is from the asbab. Our actions are the asbab that Allah has made, by which, after His mercy, of course, we enter into paradise. So we enter paradise through our actions, but not exclusively by our actions. We enter paradise by way of Allah's mercy. But the actions do have a role. Right? This is how it is in the creation. This is a rule in the creation, like with every other thing. The water, you won't remove your thirst except with drinking water. You won't remove your hunger except by eating food. These have been made from the ways and means, the asbab. You won't have children except getting married. Right? These are from the asbab. So therefore, from the angle of acting, that's something that we have been ordered with. As for the outcome, it is in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then